What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And I want to talk about the Oculus Rift again here for a second. Now, as you guys may know, I made a Francis video talking about the launch of it on March 28th, and Francis being very upset at the price. A lot of people get confused because they think Francis's opinion is always my opinion. Sometimes we share opinions, but ultimately, he's a character that can often parody what other people are saying. He'll parody the comments you'll see on Twitter, the comments you see on YouTube, the comments you see on Reddit. The idea of the character is to be the voice of people who are very angry about something in gaming, and that's the point of that video, is to parrot that. Now, I do agree with what a lot of Francis has to say, but I don't think the Oculus Rift is dead out of the gate yet, and I'd like to tell you why. So for those of you who don't know, the Oculus Rift is a virtual reality headset that will plug into your high-end PC and allow you to do virtual reality gaming and other things along that lines. It is not for the mild at heart either. The price tag of $600 is definitely keeping a lot of people out, but the fact that you need a very high-end PC in order to run it to begin with is also going to keep even more people out. This is not the mass appeal virtual reality device that everyone wants it to be. Now, that's true as of the day that it launches. It may not be true further down the road as PCs get cheaper, more and more people get PCs that will run the stupid thing, and the price comes down on it because the manufacturing cost comes down as well. So I think the Oculus Rift is going to have a shaky start, but I think virtual reality is interesting enough to most people that as it gets cheaper and as it becomes more widely available and available in stores, people are going to pick it up more and more often. I think when the price on the pre-order bonus was announced, two groups of people were upset. The first group of people are the people who want it, but either can't afford it or don't want to pay such a high price. And I am kind of in that group. I don't want to have to pay $600 for this thing. Secondly, I think the other group of people that were upset were people that were promised that it would come in closer to $300 or $400. And that's a promise that was reiterated as closely as 2 months ago. The people at the Oculus Rift said that we absolutely will try to nail $300 or $400. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that. And the reasoning is fairly sound. It has to do with the fact that the screen in this thing is really, really good. It's using the same screen, I think, as the current generation of Samsung screens. It's a 4K screen, and I've got the dev kit too. It's got a 1080p screen in it, and it sucks using the 1080p screen. In fact, when I used the dev kit 2 and then tried Project Morpheus, which has a higher resolution screen, Project Morpheus blew it completely away because the 1080p screen gives you a screen door effect. You can actually see in between the individual pixels, making it look like you're looking through a screen door, and it destroys immersion. And that is absolutely why it needed to have the best possible screen that it could. Unfortunately, that screen is in high demand right now because Samsung is putting it in all of their phones, and I believe the screen is also being made by Samsung, so that led that to be a very costly item, a cost that will go down in price as time passes. The other thing I think is that if they ever sell the unit alone with just the camera, that will probably run about $500. But this pre-order bundle includes an Xbox One controller, which retails for like $60, right? And then it includes the little remote, which mimics what's on the side of the Gear VR. And that bundle itself is basically selling a bunch of shit to early adopters that they may or may not need. During an AMA, the guy at Oculus said that they bundled it with that stuff so the developers had a target. They knew that everyone that owned a Rift would have an Xbox One, and everyone that owned the Rift would have that little remote control, and they could choose one of those as their operation scheme. Now, that's frustrating because obviously I own an Xbox One controller. I own a bunch of them. I own an Xbox 360 controller. I own a mouse and keyboard. I have tons of different ways to control games on my PC. But I guess they expected some early adopters to not have that, or they use it as an excuse to sell you more stuff to get even more profit, which is not unexpected when it comes to early tech like this. This is something they always do. They bundle it with a bunch of stuff you don't need to make more money. So what I think has happened over there at Oculus is they picked a price point that they knew they could afford, that would allow them to get the unit into people's hands, that they would allow them to get early adopters interested and upsell them some stuff, and make the best version of the unit as humanly possible. And I'm grateful for that, because I would hate to buy this one and then have a new version come out next year or the year after that or the year after that. I absolutely want to make a one-time purchase and have this thing last at least a couple of years. Ideally, it would last as long as the console's life cycle of 5, 6, 7 years. A lot of people will say that there are cheaper versions of virtual reality out there to get into, and I know that's true. I, for example, just purchased a Samsung VR, which I think will be here this weekend or maybe on Monday, and I'm going to unbox that and review that here for the channel as well. But that thing is very, very different from the Oculus Rift. Number one, it's a standalone unit. It doesn't use the power of your PC to do anything. Secondly, it requires a cell phone to be locked into the thing. It requires a modern, high-end Samsung device to work. So, of course, that's only $99 because you need a $700 phone to power the fucking thing. And I know there are other options and other pieces of VR that are coming out. We still don't know what those prices are going to be for things like the Vive. We can only hope that they'll ultimately be cheaper. But if they're going to be the best screen and the best device that we can expect, chances are it's going to be very, very expensive when it launches. I think a lot of people expected them to sell them under cost, the same way they do video game consoles, in order to do their best to try and upsell you once you're inside of the unit. And that is my biggest complaint when it comes to the Oculus Rift. I don't care if they sold it to me at under profit or under cost. I care about the fact that it's going to be a sealed environment. They promised that when they kickstarted this, it would be an open environment. It got purchased by Facebook, and now it's going to be a locked environment, and you have to go through their system and their store to purchase stuff to use on it. I'm sure there's going to be ways to find your own drivers. I'm sure there's going to be ways to crack that since it is on PC, but it sucks that we'll have to do that. I would rather have just been open source from the beginning, just the way they promised. I remain a huge fan of virtual reality, and I can tell you I've used it several times. I've used Google Cardboard, even though that's just kind of a demo. I've used my Oculus Rift and played some games there, and it was fantastic. I had an opportunity to play with Project Morpheus and play several demos there, and that thing is outstanding. I can't wait for PlayStation VR. I have a Samsung Gear coming this weekend, even though I know it's not game-oriented, it's more viewer experience-oriented. I can't wait to play with it. And I can't wait until my Oculus Rift comes in. And that's what it really comes down to. Until we have the Oculus Rift and we've broken it down and seen the hardware and figured out what's inside and figured out how the system runs, we really won't know whether or not the $600 price tag for the pre-order bundle is good or bad or a ripoff. But I have a feeling it's going to come down to being very, very fairly close to the cost to produce the unit. But that's just one man's opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments section below, and let me know what you think about the Oculus Rift, about virtual reality in general, whether or not you're excited about it, whether or not you wish the Oculus Rift was cheaper so you could get one, or if you don't really give a shit about virtual reality at all, let me know. If you do want to hear more about virtual reality, Total Biscuit did make a video on this topic, and I highly recommend it because it goes much more in depth on the topics that I talked about here. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon.